Hey, I'm Russell Leeds and welcome to the Property Investors Podcast. This week's show is all going to be about this.
How did we buy this 26-bedroom hotel for just £1? I'm going to explain how you could do the same thing in just 45 seconds. We took control of this property using something called a lease option agreement. So, how does this work? We took a 10-year lease on this property, meaning that we can rent it out and make profit from it as if we were the landlords. At the end of the lease, we have the option to purchase this property at a pre-agreed amount. In this case, just over £2 million. And to draw up the contract and get this over the line, we had to pay an option fee of £1. But here's the best part. The monthly cash flow that we're going to make over the 10 years, we're going to save aside, put in a pot, and then use that to purchase the property at the end of the option, effectively giving us a free house.
Now here's the thing. That was a 45-second Instagram reel and TikTok video. So it's very, very difficult to actually get into the details, the nuts and bolts, the actual real workings of how it all works. So that video has had about, 100,000 views across the various platforms. And there's been a lot of questions that have come up about the video. People questioning the strategy, whether it really works, how it's going to work, how much money we're actually going to make, what it really costs, what's the cost of the lease, etc, etc, etc. So what I thought I'd do on a slightly longer form content is actually break down the intricacies of that deal and answer your questions that have been coming up on the social media platforms. So I'm going to start off with a question, actually it's not even a question, more of a statement by Stephen Rich Property. He says, amazing property hack. I will be using this in the future for sure. Now, lease options really are an amazing property hack. It is a way of controlling property and making money from property without needing large amounts of capital to get started. Now, one of the most popular strategies right now is something called rent to rent. Now, lease options are a bit like rent to rent, but much, much better. So let's start off by explaining what a rent to rent is. And how rent-to-rent works, and then why lease option agreements are so much better. So a rent-to-rent is where you take a property, you rent it from a landlord, and then you rent it out for a higher price. Therefore, you are making money on a monthly basis from a property that you don't own. Now, a lot of people ask questions like, is rent-to-rent even legal? Oh, that's subletting. But think about it. How do you think hotels make their money? Let's say Premier Inn. How do you think Premier Inn make their money? Do you think they own the hotel? No. What Premier Inn do is they rent the building from a landlord, and then they rent it out to people that are looking to stay for the night in a hotel. And they're renting it out for more than the price that they're paying the landlord. And that's their whole business model. That is how they make money. Now, rent to rent is the exact same. It's just that normal people are finally getting in on the act of what used to be just big corporations were doing. So rather than Premier Inn renting a commercial building from a commercial landlord and making a profit, entrepreneurs, property entrepreneurs are renting houses from normal landlords, and then they're renting them out on a nightly rate as serviced accommodation. Or they're renting them out as a HMO. Or they're renting them out as social housing, or anything where they can make more money than the standard rent is worth. And they're capitalizing on that. And this is a brilliant strategy. I find it incredible, the amount of people that hate on rent to rent, because it's just a normal entrepreneurial skill, is to take something, package it up and sell it for more. Why do people hate on it? Why do people say that it's subletting? The only reason it would be subletting, oh, subletting, that's illegal. It's illegal, isn't it? No. It's not illegal. The only reason that it would be illegal, and I'm using the word illegal very loosely because I don't know if it's illegal. You're breaking your contract. Is that illegal? You're not going to get arrested. It's not going to be like, oh, that person's going to prison. Or what are you in for? Oh, I'm in for murder. Well, what are you in for? Yeah, I stabbed someone. What are you in for? I'm renting my house out to somebody else. It's not illegal, okay? You're breaking your contract, but it's not illegal. But the reason I say that is because you are using an AST contract. So you're renting the property as if you are a tenant, and then you're renting it out to someone else, and you're breaking your AST contract. In the same way that it would be illegal to have a dog. Is that illegal? What are you in for? I rented a property from my landlord, yeah. And I had a dog. Yeah. No, I told them I didn't have one. They came around once and I told them it was my mum's dog, and it was actually mine. Now I'm in prison. It's not illegal. You're breaking a contract, it's not illegal. Anyway. It's only breaking the contract if you're using the wrong contract. If you're using an AST, if you're renting it from a landlord and you're saying to them, oh yeah, I'm going to live here myself, and then you rent it out, then yeah, you're breaking the contract. So all you need to do is have the right contracts, and then you're fine. It's not subletting, it's not illegal. Okay, so rent to rent, brilliant strategy. So how does lease options differ from rent to rent? Well, the first way is, well, let's look at the similarities actually first. So from a monthly cash flow point of view, everything is the exact same. A lease option agreement is just a rent-to-rent deal where you have the option to buy the property at the end. Now, the reason it's called a lease option agreement is because all it is an option. It's not an obligation. You don't have to buy it. If you had a lease option agreement on a property and you said, I will buy it off you in 10 years for 2 million quid, and then the 10 years come to an end and you haven't got the 2 million quid, you can just walk away from the deal and everyone's happy, everyone's fine. It's a lease option agreement. You've got the option to buy it. So why is it so powerful? Because you're agreeing the purchase price now. Now, what happens to UK property over time? It always goes up. Now, it doesn't always go up in a straight line. It sort of goes up a little bit, then it might drop down a little bit, then it might go up a little bit. But over a long period of time, the chances are the property will significantly go up. We go back all the way to 1930, and we can actually see that on average, house prices have more than doubled every 10 years. They don't do it every 10 years, but on average over the time. So you've got a very, very good chance of it not just going up a little bit, not just going up. If it's a £2 million property, it's not going to go up like 2,100,000. It's probably going to double or significantly go up in value over time. So you're locking in that price now. But if it doesn't, let's say there's a market crash and it's only worth 1.5, that's okay because you've got the option to walk away. So it's a brilliant strategy of not only making cash flow now, but also locking in really good below market value deals for later. And not only that, but if you get the right option agreement that's paying you good cash flow on a monthly basis, you can save that cash flow, which is what I was talking about in the video. You can save that cash flow and then you can invest it back in the property. In effect, you're using the money from it to buy it. It's like it's paying for itself, which I think is a brilliant deal. So that's the lease option agreement. That's how it works. Now, in this case, we're talking about it on a large-scale hotel. But this strategy works just as well on normal residential properties, okay? So, Stephen, you are right. It is a fantastic property hack, and you guys should be using this in the future. And if you've got rent-to-rent deals, if you're doing rent-to-rent already, it's a brilliant idea is to ask the owner, would you ever consider selling at some point? And if they would consider selling at some point, you've got a fantastic opportunity to turn it into a lease option agreement. So let's start going through some of the questions and how does this all work and how does ours work. So I'm going to start off with a question by Brazy UK. He says, seems pretty straightforward, but how did you get the owner to agree to sell their house at today's market value in 10 years' time? Or am I looking at it wrong? That's a great question, and probably a question that you guys are probably thinking, listen to this, okay, yeah, I understand why it's great for me, but business should be win-win. Why would they agree? Why would they let you fix the price now for a property they want to sell in 10 years' time? And here's the answer. You need to find people who either don't need the money now or, more likely, can't get the money now that they need. So with this deal that we're talking about, this was bought by overseas investors and they transferred their money over to England, over to British pounds in order to buy the hotel. They bought the hotel and the hotel hasn't really changed in value at all. Okay, so they've had it a few years. it's actually gone into a bit of worse repair than it was when they bought it. So potentially it's dipped in value slightly, but probably with house prices rising and property prices rising, it's probably evened itself out. So it's probably worth about what they paid for it. However, the exchange rate between their country's currency and the British currency has changed. Now what that means is if they sold it for what it was worth today and got their money back, but then took their money back to their country, which is China, if they put their money back into Chinese currency, they would have less money now than when they started. They would actually have lost money on this deal. Now, right now, this property is worth about 1.9 million. They're in a situation where they've got a property worth 1.9, but they have to sell it for 2.1 million just to get their money back. So if they don't sell it for 2.1 million, they've lost money on this deal. And nobody likes to lose money on a deal. So what would you do in that situation? Probably you're going to have to keep it. But if they keep it, they're going to have to do one of two things. Either they're going to have to find someone to take on the lease who's prepared to repair it and work on it, or they're going to have to spend some money on the property themselves, which they don't want to do. So they're stuck because they want out of this deal, but they can't get out, so they're stuck. So this is where we come in, and we come in and say, look, we'll take on the property, we'll take care of it, we'll give you your £2.1 million, so you haven't made a loss on it, but we'll give it you in 10 years' time. Okay, it's not worth 2.1 now. We'll spend some money on it, we'll get some cash flow from it, we'll give it you in 10 years' time. And in the meantime, we'll lease it off you for the same amount of money you were making from your previous lease, so you're still going to make some cash flow from it right now, and your problem has gone away. As an entrepreneur, your job is to solve problems. So that's exactly what we've done. Now, from our point of view, it's a win situation because we're going to make a load of cash flow from it straight away. We can take care of it. It's part of our business model. It works what we're after, and we're probably going to get a bargain in 10 years' time, assuming property prices go up. But from their point of view, it's also a win because it's bailed them out of a problem. It's got them out of a hole. So they're in a hole now. They're in a negative equity hole. Now, this happens all the time in England in normal houses, right? It's a bit of a different situation. But if you look at certain areas up north, you've got properties that are in negative equity, properties that have still not recovered from the massive crash that we had 2008, 2010. When they bought before then, they were really high. They crashed right down. They've gone back up a bit, but they still haven't fully yet recovered. Now, of course, we know that they will recover in time. But if anyone has bought a property back then and needs the money now, or doesn't need the money now, but wants to sell it, wants to get out of the deal, you can offer them a lease option agreement. Okay, so they're sort of your prime people. Remember, in business, everything is win-win. So while it sounds great for you, you've got to look for opportunities where what you want aligns with what they want. So I hope that answers your question, Brazy UK. Okay, so this next question is from Joshua Hickey, 98. He says, why lie? Why would someone let you take control of their property? The answer is because you pay them a monthly lease agreement on top of your £1. Millions worth of property is easily in the hundreds of thousands for the monthly lease. Okay, so let's address Joshua Hickey's first point, which is why lie? I don't even see where the lie is here. I mean, he's answered his own question, first of all. Why would someone let you take control of their property? The answer is because you pay them a monthly lease. I actually say in the video that we've taken it on a 10-year lease. So of course we're going to pay them a monthly lease. I've got a 45-second video here because you're capped on time. Okay, people aren't going to want to watch a video like this explaining it on Instagram. Okay, they just want to see the highlights. I've got a 45-second video where I can go through. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to go through all the figures. I'm not going to tell you how I want to negotiate the deal, what contract I used. But there's no lie in there. I'm just telling you what happened in a highlight reel of 45 seconds. If you want to watch this video, obviously we're going to go into it in a lot more detail. Okay, so there's no lie, first of all. So I'll address that. Where's the lie, Joshua? You have to tell me. Next, a monthly grid. Yeah, I said it was monthly. £1 million worth of property, so £2 million worth of property is easily worth hundreds of thousands for the monthly lease. Okay, so obviously this guy doesn't have a clue what he's talking about, because if it was hundreds of thousands, let's say it's just 200s, let's say it's the lowest type of hundreds, £200,000 a month for a £2 million property. That's just ridiculous. That means that you would have more than bought, the monthly lease would be more than the price of the property after 1 year. It's obviously nonsense. So clearly he doesn't know what he's talking about. However, similar question, put much better, from Richard Knight, 1977, was, what are you paying monthly? Now that's a better question. Okay, so let's answer that question. So we're actually paying 80,000 a year. So it's about £6,500 a month for the lease of the property. On top of that, so we've got £6,500 there. We're also going to have to pay costs, obviously, for maintaining the property. We have to get the grass cut, etc., etc., etc. However, we have 26 rooms. Now, let's be a bit conservative here. And let's say right now we're getting just about 120 a night, but we're still doing works in the hotel, we're still making it nicer, and we aim to charge more than that. But let's say that we don't. Let's say we don't manage to get more than £120 a night, which seems cheap. We're already doing it straight away in its current condition. But let's say we don't. We stick at 120. So £120 a night times 26 rooms, which is £3,120 a night. Now, full capacity, but we'll get to that afterwards. So £3,120 a night times 365 days in a year is 1.14 million. So if it was at full capacity, all rooms fully booked, you're looking at 1.14 million. Now, on average, our units tend to be about 80-85% full. But let's assume that it's a poor one. Let's assume it's 70%. Okay, we're doing worst case and everything here. So it's 70% occupancy, which brings us down to about £800,000. Plus, we've got conference rooms. We're going to be doing weddings there. So you're looking, even being pessimistic, you're looking at around about £1 million in turnover. So what are your costs? Well, we've got the lease, which is at 80 grand a year. We've got our booking fees, which you're probably looking at about 15%. So you're looking at about 150 grand a year. We've then got the cleaners, the maintenance on your bills, general bills, utility bills, etc., which you're looking at around about 200 grand a year. So we're looking at about 430 grand a year all in for our costs. But let's say it's a bit more. Let's say it's 500 grand. You're still looking at a profit each year of around about £500,000 a year. Now, we've got this property for 10 years. Let's assume the first year is slow because we've got a few more costs getting everything sorted, but we don't make any money the first year. But then we make money the other 9 years. That's about 4.5 million. Now let's assume it's much worse than we thought. We only make half. It's still enough to pay for the property at the end and get a free hotel. And our projections are actually that this is going to be a very profitable deal. And the way the bookings are already coming in, it's very much looking that way. So I'm actually pretty happy with the deal, Joshua Hickey 98. Another question here from Manny Sierra 90 said, now just a contract from the government to fill it up with migrants. Actually, no, believe it or not, we're going to be running it not as a hotel, but actually as an apart hotel. So it's kind of apartments within a hotel using the serviced accommodation model that we've tried and tested in normal apartments. It's just they're all going to be together in one block. Now, the great thing about this is it keeps your staffing costs to a minimum because pretty much the only member of staff that you actually need is a cleaner. Obviously, you need to take care of the building in the same way that you might have a gardener, for example. Well, we do have a gardener. You might have a gardener. We employ a full-time maintenance guy anyway, so he'll be sort of taking care of the building as part of his duties. So that's all going to be included anyway. But from a regular staff point of view, when they check in, it's a self-check-in. They check in themselves. Okay? Everything's all set up on a channel manager. So the cleaners get the notifications of when they have to go in, when they have to do the cleaning, and they'll go in and sort the cleaning of the laundry. We just pay per changeover. So from a staffing point of view, from a systemization point of view, the serviced accommodation model is the way to go. And you'll probably notice actually as well, if you travel a lot, You'll notice a lot of these are part hotels. To be fair, some of them do have a receptionist, which we're not going to have, but a lot of them don't. But where you'll turn up to a block and everything is self-done. You check yourself in, check yourself out, all sorted. That's how we're going to be managing it. That's how we're going to be profiting from it. We talked about rent to rent earlier on, about how you need to rent it out for more than you're paying, and you need to make sure you get a really good rate for it. Service accommodation is the way to do that. It's my favorite way to do that. You get a fantastic nightly rate. You offer a great service. It's very, very easy. You don't have problem tenants. You know, like potentially with a HMO, you could have a tenant that's a bit of a nightmare. With service accommodation, you don't, because even if they're in pain, they're only here for a few days and then they're gone anyway. And to be honest, you don't really get people, from my experience anyway, I don't really have people that are a pain. So it's a fantastic business model. Lease options are where it is at. So in summary, this was how myself and my brother Samuel purchased a 26-bedroom hotel, just putting down a £1 deposit. You can do the exact same thing. Maybe don't start big. Maybe don't start on a hotel. Maybe just start on a house. But you can use the same strategy on smaller deals, and then you can slowly build your way up to some big deals like this hotel. I hope you guys found that useful. If you've got any questions, comment below and I'll do my very best to answer them with how this all worked. That's all for this week. I'm Russell Leeds and I will see you next week.